Alrighty, we are live. Welcome back to the Fast Break Podcast here on the Variety Sports Network. I'm your host, Shoot to Rock. We are now less than 1 week away from college basketball. Starts up on Monday. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Plus, now we're a week into the NBA season. So, basketball in full swing. I'm excited to talk about it here tonight with you guys. So, for today's show, I'm going to be going through each of the major conferences as well as some of the mid-major leagues as well, giving my shoot to rock team of the preseason, team of the conference, team of the year for each league, as well as then my predictions of how each team's going to finish. So that's how we're going to start up the show. Then we'll look at Joe Lenardi dropped his first bracketology of the year, so we'll take a look at that as well. Maybe even look at some NBA mock drafts and touch on some NBA first week stuff to kind of wrap up the show here. So as we start, we're going to start in probably my favorite league, the only really basketball focused power league at this point, the Big East. So the Big East announced, and then too, we're going to talk about kind of these teams, these leagues. They announced their own polls. So Big East, their preseason play of the year was Zuby Ejiofor, and their first team included Solo Ball from UConn, Alex Caravan from UConn, Terrace Reed from UConn, Owen Freeman from Creighton, Chase Ross from Marquette, and Bryce Hopkins from St. John's. So I guess they did it. Yeah, this is like really weird here. They're like first team has 6 guys, their second team has 5 guys, and then the third team has 7. Which then too, like Ejiofor isn't on this team. I just like looked at that. That's really weird. But yeah, for mine, I'm gonna do 6 guys for each team. Just I was gonna do 5, but then I was like, you know what, I want to show love, do a couple more, a couple different guys. So for my Big East team, did I just like delete? Oh my gosh, I must have X'd out of this tab. I'm so sorry, chat. Give me 1 second here. But for my Big East first team, it was pretty similar. I had Zuby Ejiofor from St. John's. As I think probably player of the year, he was really dominant last year. So the St. John's Red Storm really gonna be a lot relying on him as well again. And then his other front court mate, I have Alex Caravan, the UConn senior. Talked about him a little bit last week. Was on both the national championship teams from UConn. Sticking around here now finally for his senior year. Then my third player, kind of like small forward, still front court. Went with Jackson McAndrew of Creighton. He actually didn't make the first team, but he's a guy, I saw him play live last year, and he had more of kind of a secondary role last year. But I really think this year, losing Stephen Ashworth as their like main guard, their main shooter, I really think McAndrew's going to play a big role. He's a sophomore at Creighton, so I think, sophomore year really steps up. Then going to the front court, I got Solo Ball from UConn. Junior this year, his freshman year had a really solid year. I mean, he's played really well the past 2 years, but yeah, won the national title his freshman year. So a guy that I'm really high on. And then finally, I wrapped it up with Chase Ross from Marquette. If Marquette is going to be a tournament team this year, like I think they can be, they're really going to rely heavy here on Chase Ross in their backcourt here. Let me pull this up here. Why can I not find the Marquette preview? They lose some guys like Cam Jones. So to have Chase Ross kind of step up, maybe in that role, like be one of their 2 returners in the starting 5, that's going to be, I think he's going to play a big role. So that's why I went with him as my other guard. And then for 6-man, I did go with Bryce Hopkins. He's battled with some injuries, been at Providence, now at St. John's. I think being in kind of a secondary role behind Ejiofor will allow him to achieve. So that's why I went with him as my 6th man for the Shoot to Rock All Big East team. Then my top 3, I'm going to go through and give my top 3 teams in each conference. Third, I have Creighton. They do lose big guys in Stephen Ashworth and Ryan Kalkbrenner, both going to the NBA. And then, now there's going to be some guys that are going to have to step up. But I think they have the pieces in place there. Like I said, McAndrew on first team. Owen Freeman made some Big East teams where they went with more guys. Like I believe he was second team there, like I read off. He's going to be a really solid transfer from Iowa. They returned Jason Green as well, who had 19 points against UConn in the Big East tournament, had a really solid year. So I like the Blue Jays. I just think the Big East too, especially after these first two teams, really takes a drop off. And then honestly, after Creighton too, I think it's, let me look here in the Lenardi bracketology. I want to say he might have only had he has 5 Big East teams. Never mind. I was misspoke, but a couple years ago they only had 3 Big East teams. So the Big East is a league that has struggled at times, kind of top to bottom, like where the top's just so much better. But I don't think that'll be the case as much this year. At least or no, I just said I do think I think that'll be the case where like Creighton will be third, but then there's gonna be some kind of other teams that have a chance to make the tournament, but I don't think they're gonna be competing like these other top squads. And second, I'm going with last year's champion, St. John's. Obviously shout out a couple of their guys already. Bryce Hopkins, Zuby Ejiofor, who won, preseason player of the year, had a really solid year last year. He's gonna, play a big role if they go far. It's a team that, like I said, they were 2 seed last year, really achieved under Coach Rick Pitino. But they're a team that bowed out early in the tournament, lost in the second round. They also have Ian Jackson, who's going to be a really solid guard for them, playing a big role. Jason Sannon. So, overall, I'd say they're a pretty well-rounded team. But it's more just I like the team I picked in first better. I went with the UConn Huskies to win the Big East this year. Like I said, still have a couple of guys from those national championship teams in solo ball. Alex Caravan. Trying to see who else like here that I might have missed on the UConn side. Silas Demery as well, who's a junior this year. And then this Braylon Mullins kid they got as a freshman, I believe. Right, I saw that he won freshman of the year, preseason freshman of the year. Yeah, he did. So they're expecting a lot out of him. This UConn team, I mean, they're always deep. I expect no difference this year. So that's why I went with UConn as my pick to win the Big East. Then moving on. Next, we'll go alphabetically here. So next, we're going to go to the ACC. Last year, ACC had Duke go to the Final Four. Should have won that Final Four game, been playing the national championship, but weren't able to close it out. Coach John Shirey's done a really good job here with this Blue Devil program, taking over for the legendary Mike Krzyzewski. Obviously, a little biased, as you can see there. I got the Duke logo. No, I was right with this hand in my background here. I am a Duke fan, so I'm really high on this team. Looking here at the preseason picks, the coaches poll, they did vote, or the media poll, they do think that Duke will win the ACC again this year. I mean, they pretty much just dominated that league last year. Only loss was at Clemson. First team for the ACC for the media poll, they had Cameron Boozer from Duke, Marcus Burton from Notre Dame, Darion Williams from NC State, Michael Brown from Louisville, and Ryan Conwell from Louisville. So now going over to my team. I agree. I like Marcus Burton, Michael Brown, junior for Louisville. Both I think should be really solid players. I mean, Notre Dame, not going to be as good of a team. I don't really think I'm going to be talking about them a whole lot more, but, they could play some entertaining games. They played a couple last year at the Players era. So it's going to be, can a guy like Marcus Burton, really, really solid guard from a junior this year, can he keep him in games? Him and Braden Shrewsbury really should be, a really solid backcourt. And, that can take you far sometimes in college basketball, having an experienced backcourt. So excited to watch him play. The other guard I went with was Michael Brown Jr. From Louisville, really highly touted freshman. I mean, he's going to be a lottery pick, might even go top 10 in this draft. I mean, Louisville was really high on him. That was a really good signing for them. I mean, these next two, this league, the ACC, and then the next league, the Big 12, we're going to talk about. There's going to be a lot of freshmen that are really going to make impacts in this league, like names that if you're an NBA fan, like if you're coming here watching this show more for the NBA talk, these are going to be the games like when you watch college basketball to watch ACC games, watch, Louisville play, watch Duke play, watch UNC play. We'll get to them in a sec. And then watch Big 12 games when we get there. There's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be lottery picks playing in those games. For the front court, went with Cameron Boozer, him and his twin brother Caden, sons of former NBA star and Duke player as well. Carlos Boozer. So they're both, very highly touted. especially Cameron. There's a chance, he's going to be a top 5 pick if he plays well this year, and he's going to be really kind of the key piece on this Duke team. So really high on him. Then next, I went with Darian Williams, who's at NC State this year, senior, transferred from Texas Tech, played a big role on that Texas Tech team that I feel like I say this a lot, but that tournament last year, a lot of different games could have gone a lot of different ways where, Texas Tech had Florida on the ropes. Darian Williams played really well in that game. Like, they very easily could have beat Florida, who ended up going on to win the national championship. So really high on him. That was a very good ad for NC State. They have a couple good transfers. I mean, Trey Holloway, who's been at Michigan State the last couple of years. So Coach Will Wade, coming over from McNeese State, did a good job getting a lot of high quality transfers to kind of build his team, which, you see a lot of these high level coaches do. So NC State, they're not going to be a pushover this year. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch. Then final front court player, I went with Caleb Wilson, another really solid freshman for North Carolina, or at least, expected to be top 10. Same thing, it was a big signing for them. He's going to really be the focal point in their offense to go with, some of their backcourt guys that are still around. No more Elliot Cadeau and no more RJ Davis. RJ Davis played for forever. But I forget who they have. Why? And I just cannot scroll for the life of me in this magazine sometimes. Who is it that I'm thinking of that's coming? Oh, Seth Trimble's coming back to lead the kind of backcourt. So yeah, they're really going to be relying on him and Caleb Williams. I'm sorry, not Caleb Williams, Caleb Wilson here for the Tar Heels. Sixth man, I went with Ryan Cornwell of Louisville. Like I kind of talked about a little bit. Louisville really has a lot of guard options, with him. Like I already mentioned, he's a transfer from Xavier. They got a lot of transfers. Then Isaac McNeely, the Virginia transfer, is playing for Louisville this year. And then, Michael Brown, the really highly touted freshman. So Louisville is going to be deep with guards. They're going to be the team that, I could see maybe challenging Duke for the ACC. So let's get into that. Third for my ACC picks, I just kind of talked about them. Went with North Carolina. I think it'll definitely be a bounce back year for the Tar Heels. I mean, made the tournament last year, maybe a little bit controversial, but then did give Ole Miss, a game here in the first round. So I think the Tar Heels, they'll be competitive. Like, the ACC is not going to be just Duke and everyone else as much as it was last year. So I'm excited to watch that. Then next, I did go with Louisville. Like I said, Coach Pat Kelsey's done a really good job getting some highly talented guys in here for the Cardinals this year. I don't think they're going to be a pushover by any means. I really think they can go, toe to toe with Duke. So then, yeah, Javon Hadley's another returning starter they have. Yeah, Isaac McNeely, Eli Khalifa at center was a good transfer from BYU a couple years ago. So, they did a good job. I mean, they lose guys like Chucky Hepburn, who played a really big role for them last year, and I feel like they did a really good job replacing a lot of those players. So Louisville, I think, they're going to be a solid team this year. They could honestly win the ACC. It would not surprise me. But first, I have Duke. Like I mentioned, just, the Boozer twins going to be really, really loaded there. I mean, it's Duke. They reload every year. They're never really bad. Despite, graduating their entire starting five, they're going to have guys like Isaiah Evans or Caleb Foster, take bigger roles this year. It's really good. A lot of it's going to be this Nick Kanemia they got. It's also another really highly touted freshman. I mean, Patrick Nwagba, who I talked about last week, kind of holding down the middle. So it's going to be a lot of guys that are returning. Dame Sarr is also, a guy I'm really seeing high on draft boards for Duke. So it's going to be a lot of, while they did graduate not graduate, but, lost a lot of their guys to the draft. Obviously when you lose Cooper Flagg and Con Knippel, that's going to be very hard to replace. But honestly, I feel like they did a pretty good job doing that. So I think Duke, with these young guys they brought in to replace the young guys from last year, as well as some reserves taking bigger roles, I got the Blue Devils winning the ACC for me this year. Sorry, I got to take a sip of water. This gets a lot when it's just me. I got to get some more CBB fans on the polls here, or feel free to drop your guys' takes in the comments. Anything you might disagree with. So let me know. All righty. Now we'll move on to the Big 12. Like I mentioned, similar to the ACC, the Big 12 is going to have a lot of really, really young players freshman making a big impact. So in the preseason poll, Houston picked the league winner. Like I mentioned, they're a team that they're ranked second in the country, but a lot of these metrics had them at first. And, their team, they lose in the national championship, a game that they could have won very easily last year. So Coach Calvin Sampson has really got a solid squad in Utah or in Houston here for a long time. I don't know why I just said Utah. Then the preseason All Big 12 team, they just did one team, and they did like 10 guys, I think. So they had AJ DeBansta, like I've talked about. I'm going to talk about more. Really, very tall guard, like very unique skill set that he has. Probably going to be the number one pick or in the running for all year, leading BYU. Him and Richie Saunders made the preseason All Big 12 team. For Houston, they had Emmanuel Sharp, Joseph Tugler, and Miles Uzan. Tamin Limpsey from Iowa State, Darren Peterson from Kansas, who also is me up there from the number one pick. He had a really good game in their secret scrimmage. Well, not secret scrimmage, but exhibition against Louisville. PJ Haggerty at K-State, who's a transfer from Memphis, played really well there the past couple of years. And then Christian Anderson and JT Toppin, who JT Toppin's the preseason player of the year for Texas Tech. So for my team, I went with, like I mentioned, Darren Peterson, AJ DeBansta. Those two, like I said, I'm going to get to it in a little bit. Maybe when we look over a mock draft, or maybe, honestly, I might as well just do that now. I feel like that's not really a great segment. But yeah, this ESPN mock draft I'm seeing here currently has, where'd it go? Has Peterson going 1 and DeBansta going 2. Like when BYU and Kansas play this year, like I said, if you're an NBA fan, it's going to be must watch. You're most likely watching two guys that are going to be, could very easily be the top 2 players in the draft. So that's going to be a good battle. Looking else, who else I have on my team? Ryan it out with Miles Uzan, a really solid guard from Houston last year. I mean, played a big role for them. When you have a team that went to the national championship game and you're bringing back as many guys as Houston has, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, just especially how good of like defense that this Houston team plays. So having a guy like Uzan, and then I also want Jojo Tugler, so like have the front court, have the back court, to really solidify this team. Because I mean, Emmanuel Sharp, who I just said, he's back there to run it with Uzan. This team's gonna be a force to be reckoned with, and like I mean, we'll get to it, but I think they're gonna achieve a lot this year. My last player, JT Toppin, really solid for Texas Tech last year. Him and Darian Williams, who I just talked about in the previous, with the NC State transfer. Like those two were just like an unstoppable front court duo. And, I'm really excited to watch Toppin again. I mean, he had a double-double in all 4 of the NCAA tournament games. Like the guy just scores, rebounds. He gets whatever he wants out on the floor. He's probably one of my favorite players to watch in college basketball. And then for my 6th man on this team, I went with Tamin Limpsey from Iowa State. Iowa State, like this Big 12 league is so deep, but if they're going to achieve a high ranking, high conference standing, they're going to need a big year from him. I mean, he could have gone with Richie Saunders. There was really a lot of guys that I could have gone with for this pick. But yeah, I'm really excited for Tamin Limpsey. He was all Big 12 third team last year. I think he's going to take an even bigger leap this year. So excited to watch him. For my predictions, in third, I have BYU. Like I said, this DeBansta, being able to bring him on, plus, we have Richie Saunders, Baylor transfer Rob Wright. There's a lot of really solid guys on this BYU team. Plus, they bring back Kiba Kita. They have good guards, they have good centers, good wings. They're a solid all-around team. I just think some of these other teams might be more talented. Second, I went with Texas Tech. I mean, we've talked about it here. JT Toppin, player of the year. Christian Anderson's back, to kind of give him a backcourt running mate as well. Those are the only 2 returners. But just looking at this roster, like there's some really solid guys. Like I said, it's similar to like a Duke where it's going to be some like reserve players kind of have to step up a little bit. But seeing how Texas Tech has played the last couple of years, I'm very confident they can do that. And then my champion, I mean, I feel like this is obvious. It's got to be Houston. I don't know how you can go with anyone except for Houston. They returned 3 starters from a team that should have won the national championship a year ago. They fill in the cracks with, some good guys stepping up as well as transfers. Like, this team is just really, really deep just all around. I mean, you lose LJ Carr, but they still have, like I said, Tugler, Uzan, Manuel Sharp. There's just so much to like about this Houston team. Plus, like we saw multiple times last year, they just have a way to come back in games. Like, they're never really out of a game. I don't know. They're honestly, like I said, I'm going to get to it more next week. They're my pick to win the national championship this year. They've come really close the last 2 years. I think this year is going to be their year. So then we move on to the Big Ten. If I can get my mouse to work, here we go. All right, Big Ten predictions. Another team I'm really high on in this league, similar to Houston, is Purdue, where I think they're kind of a step above everyone else. Returned a lot of guys, and they are who in the preseason poll was picked to win the Big Ten, followed by Michigan, Illinois, UCLA. But really, I feel like after Purdue and Michigan, this league is very wide open. A lot of the predictions I'm seeing are kind of all over the place after those two. Big Ten, first team they went with Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Renn from Purdue. Both were unanimous selections. Really no surprise there. I talked about those two a lot last week. Returning for Purdue, been there. Plus with Fletcher Lure, just that 3-headed monster they're going to have of returners, I think is just going to be insane. Then Yaxel Lundenborg, the UAB transfer for Michigan. Think he's really going to, like I said, Michigan had really good bigs last year. I think they're going to have really good bigs again this year with him. And then went with Donovan Dent, UCLA guard, transfer from New Mexico. And then Bennett Sturts, who followed his coach, Ben McCollum, from Drake to Iowa. So those guys, those 5 guys, pretty much like I said, this magazine here had the same 5 guys, so no spoilers. Those are my 5 guys. I mean, all seniors, all guys that we've seen play really well in college basketball for, multiple years now. I guess Bennett Sturts really just last year coming up from the D2 ranks, but guys I've been high on. So in the Big Ten, just with how tough a league it is, you need seniors, you need guys to step up to win games. I mean, it's a very tough league to win. I mean, even at home, especially on the road, but even at home, like there's really no pushovers. So I think, those guys are kind of hands down. For my 6th man, I could have gone Bruce Thornton, the Ohio State guard, who's a senior. He made the second team. But I ended up going with another senior, Nate Biddle from Oregon. Was really high on him last year. If the Ducks are going to go far or, be a contender in the Big Ten, it's going to really come down to him having a big year, I think. The other second team guys here for the preseason poll, said I just did 6, but they had Nick Martinelli, another senior from Northwestern. I mean, even Northwestern should have like a solid squad this year. And like they could, I don't know about that. They're projected to finish 15th. But that's what I'm saying. Like last year, Nebraska, who like just missed the Nebraska missed the Big Ten tournament. They like just missed the NCAA tournament. Like that's why a lot of people are like anti-expansion is in like an expanded like 72 team field. Nebraska most likely would have made the tournament last year after not making the Big Ten tournament. I want to say though the Big Ten is going back to having all 18 teams participate this year in the tournament. And then who else was it? And then Andrei Stojakovic, junior transfer from Cal, now at Illinois, son of Peja Stojakovic, former NBA player. Illinois is going to need a big year from him. I mean, and they just got a lot of these like Eastern European transfers. The preseason poll has them finishing in 3rd. So Illinois, they'll have a solid squad. My picks, though, for the top 3 teams in the Big Ten. Number 3, I went with UCLA. Like I said, I was really high on Donovan Dent at UNLV. Or I'm sorry, not UNLV. New Mexico in the past. I've really liked watching him play. Plus, then, they got Eric Daly Jr., one of their transfers in last year, plus Sky Clark, another guard, to run in the backcourt with him. So, and Tyler Bildeau. So, a lot of really returners here for UCLA coming in around Donovan Dent, a team that, last year, made the NCAA tournament. Like they were a solid squad last year. And I like their addition. So I'm going UCLA to finish third. Second, I'm going Michigan. Like I said, it's really just going to be Yaxel London board for me. I'm really one of my favorite players to watch last year. He was like a mid-major guy, so not a lot of people knew about him. And that's why I love them when these guys, that's, the good thing when they come to these higher schools is, guys will know them. Plus, they bring in Elliot Cadeau from UNC. Namari Burnett's a returning starter. Like this team should be really solid. But I just don't think anyone can compete with Purdue. Like I said, Trey Kaufman-Renn, Braden Smith, just two of the best players in college basketball, let alone the Big Ten. Plus, you throw Fletcher Lawyer in there. Like this team's just all around. Got the guys. Oscar Clough is another guy who was a transfer from South Dakota State last year. Is really high on him. So I really just kind of think it's Purdue's league, and I don't really know if I can see anyone competing with them. All right, then next we will go on to the SEC. Let me just get a water break real quick. I guess I didn't drink enough water today. I'm a little dry here. All right, the SEC. Best conference in basketball last year. They very well might be the best conference again this year. So looking at their projections, they picked the defending national champions, Florida, to win the conference. Kentucky was the other team to receive first place votes. Their preseason teams had Alex Condon as unanimous selection from Florida, as well as Otego Owe from Kentucky, unanimous selections. And then Tahad Pettiford, Josh Hubbard, Nate Ament ran out the first team. Second team, LeBaron Philon from Alabama, Boogie Flan from Florida, Keyshawn Hall from Auburn, Malik Diop from Ole Miss, and Thomas Hall from Florida. So, like I mentioned, this league was the best league in basketball last year. I guess a little bit of spoilers because we're about to get to it. Joe Lunardi has 11 SEC teams in the tournament. Once again, I want to say last year they had 10. Or no, last year they had 12. They had 12 last year. Because they broke the they had 11 or 12 last year. Why can I not remember? Because they broke the SEC or they broke the tournament bid record set by the Big East when the Big East was like massive. Yeah. I'm sorry, 14. Yeah. So pretty much everyone except for the last two teams. Granted, do I think that happens again? Probably not. But you never know. It's gonna be a deep league. So for my picks, first team, I agreed with their two unanimous ones. Otego Owe is gonna be a senior this year for Kentucky. He was one of the better players I watched in all of college basketball last year. Alex Condon played a big role in that national championship team last year. He now returns for Florida. Then to go with them, I went with Tahad Pettiford. Was a six-man last year for Auburn as a freshman, but going to take a bigger role with, a lot of the losses that they had. And then the other guard, I went with Josh Hubbard from Mississippi State. He's just a bucket getter. I mean, I've enjoyed watching him the last, this will be now third year in a row. Probably one of my favorite, more underrated players to watch in college basketball. So I'm a big fan of his. Then the front court, like I said, I went with Condon, but then I also went with Nate Ament from Tennessee, really highly touted freshman. He's another guy, could be a top 10 pick, should be a lottery pick in this year's draft for the Volunteers. So that was a really big signing for him. Yeah, people in Tennessee really high on him. I think he'll pair well with Felix Akpara in the front court, a returner for Tennessee. So this is a league. It was tough. It was tough to pick three teams. Like there was so many ways I feel like I could have gone with this, but I just kind of played it. In all honesty, I played it safe. So for third, I went with the Kentucky Wildcats. I think they're a team. Mark Pope's done a really good job there last year after John Calipari left. Like I said, I'm really high on Otega Owe. Jaden Quintains should be another pretty highly touted guy in the draft for them, a sophomore this year in the front court. Plus, they got, Nia Muhammad Diabate come over from Alabama. I think he's going to play a bigger role. So this Kentucky team, I mean, it's Kentucky. Let's be honest. They're very good all the time. They're like a Duke. They're like a Kansas. It's very rare when they're not good. Jelon Lowe's another guy. Should be a very high scorer for them. So yeah, but I don't know. I just kind of think maybe these next two teams are better. Second, I went with Alabama. Auburn was kind of the team in the state of Alabama last year that ran the state, but I think the Crimson Tide are probably the better team this year just because of the amount of losses that Auburn had. I mean, Alabama, they bring back LeBaron Philon. They bring in Aiden Holloway. Who the heck did I think? Or no, never mind. Aiden Holloway was on the team. I got him confused with Trey Holloway, the NC State guy now, who was from Michigan State. So they should be pretty loaded. I mean, no Mark Sears, but yeah, Aiden Holloway, low-key might be better than him. So I'm just reading that off the magazine. Yeah, I don't know. This is a team that, like I said, was very high on them last year. I think they should be really good a lot again this year. I'm trying to see if there's like any other names I missed. I mean, those two guards are going to be really the big ones for them. But like I said, in college basketball, having a solid backcourt, solid experience backcourt, that really makes the biggest difference. And then finally, my champion, I'm going with the Florida Gators. They're the national champs last year, won the SEC tournament. Honestly, if it wasn't for Auburn getting out to such the hot start they had, Florida might have been the best team in the league last year. I mean, like I said, they bring back Chinyelu, they bring back Alex Condon, Xavier Lee, and Boogie Flander, two really talented guards that they had transferring in. This Florida team, they're going to be good again. I mean, Coach Todd Golden done a really good job coaching the Gators, so I'm really high on Florida. I think they win the SEC again this year. So then just to touch on a couple mid-major leagues quick. So I did just kind of make a mid-major team. Maybe this is a little unfair. I probably should have made two. But for my mid-majors, the main guard to watch for me in the mid-major leagues is Javon Bennett, Dayton senior. Should be really good. I mean, the Flyers are always competitive in the A10. Granted, did bow out a little bit early last year. I mean, VCU kind of ran that league. The joke online, A10 zero bid league, and kind of does end up becoming that way because their teams all beat up on each other. And we'll get into Lenardi's bracketology here in a second. We're looking like, once again, there's only be one bid in the A10, but I mean, this league is deep. Like VCU was picked to win it, but St. Louis, Dayton, and Loyola Chicago all got votes to win the A10. And I think all four of those teams, as well as George Washington, who's projected to finish fourth, I'm seeing a lot of people really high on them. I think like the A10 is a very talented league. Granted, is it on the level of those other five leagues? No. But when you give the A10 one bid, that's like saying it's on the same level as like the NEC or the mid-Atlantic. Like, it's not. It's better than that. Like, that's the only thing that I'm kind of hating about college basketball right now, and why I really don't want tournament expansion, is you're seeing it kind of become like football, where it's like the power conferences and everyone else. I mean, outside of those Power 5 leagues, and Lenardi's bracketology here, the only other leagues he has with multiple bids are the Mountain West and WCC, and those ones he only has two bids. So hopefully we're able to find a way to get a couple more teams in. The rest of my mid-major team, I went with Graham EK of Gonzaga, like I mentioned, the Bulldogs. Mark Fuse build a powerhouse over there. Really good news for them. Tyon Grant Foster, transfer from Grand Canyon, who he really impressed there the last couple of years. Grand Canyon run the WAC. Now they're in the Mountain West. They were they were in the WAC. We're supposed to be in the WCC this year. then ended up getting poached by the Mountain West after they had to backfill, and then they somehow found their way to get into the Mountain West early this year. So, but yeah, they now get Tyon Grant Foster. He's going to be, well, now not staying in conference anymore. Should have been staying in conference, but yeah, now him and Graham Ike really should be leading this Gonzaga team. I mean, they're going to be competing for a top seed in the NCAA tournament again. I mean, let's see, what are they currently projected to be? They're projected to be a 5. I mean, yeah, like that's pretty typical for Gonzaga. It's going to be them and then St. Mary's, who led by Paulius Morkawas, Jr. for them. Also made my mid-major team here. I guess I can probably take the SEC predictions off. I should have done a mid-major banner. So then followed by going back to the A10, Robbie Avila, the Indiana State. What people would call him, the Gog. No, he had some Larry Bird related nickname. I can't remember it now. But yeah, the goggled guy. That wasn't his nickname, but yeah, the kid with the goggles was at SLU last year. Followed his coach to SLU, or no, he didn't. Yes, yeah. Indiana State's coach went to SLU. So he went there with him. Didn't have a great year last year, or at least the same notoriety, but still solid. And I think he should have a really good year again this year as a senior. And then finally, I went with Andrew Meadow, Boise State, a junior, as my 6th man. The Broncos, as well as Utah State, are going to be those ones kind of challenging. Magoon Guath's San Diego State Aztecs for the MWC crown. And I think it should be a competitive league. I mean, it always is. Maybe not as much as in the past. Like people are saying, I've seen like Grand Canyon maybe to finish 4th in the Mountain West this year, which would be kind of crazy their first year in the league. So we'll see. But yeah, that's, like I said, Gonzaga, San Diego State. It's a lot of the usual suspects. Like I said, I think the A10s will be really fun this year, though. I think they're a deep league. So those are kind of my mid-majors to watch. So we'll go next here. We'll do we'll look over this bracketology Joe Lenardi released here. I'm excited to look at this. That's when we're getting close. When just thinking about the NCAA tournament. Oh gosh, I'm already like thinking about like what days I want to take off for work for the NCAA tournament. I mean, they released the Final Four schedule this year. What the heck is this? Why? Go away. I don't know if you guys can see that on the screen, but yeah, there's some weird comments thing. So yeah, I'm really excited for the NCAA tournament already, and it's November. All right, so looking at this here, his last 4 byes, he has Cincinnati, Iowa, Virginia, and then that St. Mary's team I just talked about. Last 4 in, Marquette, Washington, Boise State, who I also threw out there, and then Villanova. First 4 out, Oklahoma, Indiana, Clemson, Texas A&M. Next 4 out, SMU, Maryland, Utah State, and Georgia. So then, like I said, this is, I think, the juicy stuff, the bids. He's got 11 SEC teams, 11 Big Ten teams, 8 Big 12 teams, 5 ACC, 5 Big East, 2 Mountain West, and 2 WCC. That's what I'm saying. Everything else, he only has 1. Like, even the American, Memphis, he has the automatic qualifier, the 11, but no one else making it. It's just like kind of crazy to me how that could like be the case. Like I said, I just don't think it's right to have like these leagues that are not power conference leagues, but still better than the low major league. So I think that's a little bit disappointing. As 1 seeds, he's got Houston, Purdue, Duke, and Florida. So no, last year was Auburn, not Purdue. I was going to say the 3 of the 4 same 1 seeds from last year. I feel like that doesn't end up happening. What I've like been seeing too is that, who said it? Well, for sure it was like the number 1 team, preseason number 1, doesn't win the national championship. And then it's like some team in the top 10 like either misses the tournament or finishes like really poorly. I forget what it was. 2 seeds, he's got Kentucky, UConn, Michigan, and St. John's. 3, we got BYU, UCLA, Tennessee, and Louisville. At the 4 lines, we've got Arizona, Alabama, Illinois, Texas Tech. The 5s, Iowa State, Michigan State, Arkansas, Gonzaga. 6, UNC, Kansas, Auburn, and Oregon. And then we'll do 7. San Diego State, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Creighton is a 7th seed. So, like, we're seeing very power conference heavy. I don't really know. See, this is the only thing that I'm kind of struggling with a little bit here in these episodes. So I'd love, more chat input or, followers before the show on what you guys want me to talk about. It's one of those, like, it's getting to the point we just need to play the basketball. Like, we can, have these exhibitions where, like, they have funky formats or not all the guys play. We can do these preseason projections, but until they actually play the games, you don't know what's going to happen. That's what I'm saying. I much more enjoy, like, watching the games and talking about them afterwards. So we'll get into that when that happens. So to wrap it up, we'll go with talk a little NBA here. So looking over the standings here to start the year, maybe not what we expected. In the West, maybe what we expected. Probably not in the East. So OKC 4-0. They've played just some absolutely classic games, especially their first two. I mean, that opening night game against the Rockets, one of the best games I've ever watched in the NBA, at least for the regular season. Like, you tell both teams were really caring, wanted to win that game. And then the next night against the Pacers, they once again, like, they played 2 double overtime games to start their season. That's like, it was the first time in NBA history that's ever happened. So that was really cool to see. And then the other 4-0 team, the San Antonio Spurs. Wemby Mania might be here already, man. He might be like all NBA first team already this year. He put on an insane first game against Cooper Flag and the Mavericks. I want to forget his stat line, but had like an insane reverse dunk, was just like blocking everybody. He's looked really good. They've been really fun to watch so far. So definitely high on the Spurs. The Warriors 3-1. They've played some really good games as well. I mean, their game against the Nuggets, like that. What was it? That Thursday ESPN doubleheader start the season with Thunder Pacers and Warriors Nuggets, like 2 just absolute cinema games. Like I said, probably the most fun I've had watching the NBA in a long time. So they're 3-1. Then Jazz, Nuggets, Clippers, all 2-1. Jazz, playing better than I thought they would be to start the year. Had a nice win against the Suns last night. That was a game that really went down to the wire. Lauri Markkanen's been playing well. I want to say he had like 40 or 50 points in that one. Let me pull it up here. Oh, I hate that it's still sharing it. But yeah, he's averaging 34 a game. Maybe that would be the better thing, is like some of the 50-point scores already in this one. It's been going crazy. Yeah, Markkanen had 51 in the win last night. I know, like, Luke already had 49 in the game. Austin Reeves had 51. Shea had a 50-point game. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do stats. Let's do season leaders. That's probably more fun to look at. So yeah, points per game. Shea is averaging 40 points per game. Giannis is averaging 36. Austin Reeves 34. Tyrese Maxey had a big game with 34 as well. I want to see more, because I know there was a lot. Like, there's been a lot of guys who have really been filling the basket. Aaron Gordon's he's up there. That's kind of crazy. Steph, Wemby, like I mentioned. I mean, let's just look at his box scores so far this year. I want to say it's just something nuts. Yeah, a 40-point game, a 31-point game, 24 points is the lowest scoring game. That game he had 15 rebounds. Yeah, 40 points and 15 rebounds. That's just nuts. He almost had a triple-double with blocks, because he had 9 blocks in the game against New Orleans. Got dunked on early, but then, like, that's going to happen when he's just, like, dunking the ball or, going for a block every time. That's how good he is. So, yeah, NBA been a lot of fun to watch so far. I'm really trying to think any other major storylines. I guess Philly being 4-0 is also quite impressive. Like, they've been fun to watch. They're in, like, this weird spot where they have guys like, Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey's been their leading scorer in every game. He's already got 2 40-plus point games, both Monday and then Wednesday. I'm sorry. Oh, this is going down. Everyone, I'm sorry. Yeah, and their opener on Wednesday, and then yesterday as well had a 40-point game. Then 39 tonight in a win, so in overtime. So yeah, Sixers first 4-0 team on the year out east. And I don't know, it's one of those things, like, no Paul George, and they're honestly, like, playing better without him. Embiid's actually been playing. I think he has been on a minutes restriction. But I mean, yeah, Maxey, I've been really impressed with VJ Edgecombe. I'm trying to see, like, is there another way I can look at any of their other guys? So like it really almost seems, I mean, Quentin Grimes has been playing well too in his minutes. So it's one of those things where they almost are like better off going with their younger guys. And like, I don't really know anyone that would take the Paul George contract, but um like dealing him or something, like that's the only thing. Like when you have these bad contracts, you kind of need young guys like that to step up and bail you out. Bulls, another 3-0 team. I gotta say, I don't think that one's gonna last. But some nice wins. Like the game last night against the Hawks was a good one. Was back and forth. Same thing that their first game against the Pistons. Nikola Vucevic like actually been playing well, averaging 20 points a game. I want to see what else he's averaging at. 20 points, 13 rebounds. So he's been playing really well to start the year. I know I've got some Bulls fan friends that are not super high on him, but hey, who knows? Maybe this is the Bulls' year. Maybe he has a really good year. I doubt it, but yeah. And then, like I said, it's early. It's hard to tell. It really groups out. Heat 3-1, Cavs 3-1, Knicks 2-1, Bucks 2-1. Just watching the Knicks Bucks, I got kicked out though. Too many people are using my Fubo account, so I'm gonna have to fix that. But yeah, I guess then kind of teams at this point, Boston's been off to a really slow start. They just really have not looked good, and honestly, them being bad this year is probably not the worst thing in the world with Tatum being out. Maybe you just kind of punt on this year, wait for next year. Out west, the Pelicans being 0-3, but I mean they played like competitive games. Well, never mind, they got blown out by Boston last night, but their other two games have been competitive. So Zion's actually been healthy, like kind of leading the charge there, but probably gonna need a little bit more support. Pelicans are gonna step up, but yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think the West has been a little bit more like this is outside of like the Jazz being up there, but again, that's 2-1. Like that's not really a lot of games. This is pretty much like kind of how I would expect the West, and I guess like Houston being down, but they've had tough games. Like I said, they could have won that OKC game. They lost a close game to the Pistons, where I mean the Pistons are decent, so that's not like a terrible loss. But yeah, then the East is a little bit wacky with the Bulls and the Sixers at the top, but who knows? Maybe that's what'll end up happening. So I think that's gonna wrap this one up. Like I said, a week from today, we're gonna have college basketball on. There's going to be actual games that have happened for me to talk about, and I'm really looking forward to that. So appreciate you guys all for watching. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel so you never miss a stream, and I will see you guys next week. Peace.